Hey, welcome back. And if you're new here, my name's Christina Kent, and I'm an artist based out of San Francisco. And today we're going to do some plein air painting along the California coast. I love coming to the beach to paint. I always find the beach just so peaceful and calming. Here in California, in Northern California, it's usually pretty chilly, but there's always something beautiful to see, whether it's sunny, whether it's cloudy. And this time when I came to the beach, it was a pretty sunny day, which is rare for this beach near San Francisco. And also it had rained a lot recently, so a lot of the hills were actually pretty green. So as I was looking for something to paint, I ended up settling on this hill, which is usually pretty brown most of the year, but because of the spring rain, we have these vibrant greens on the top of the hill. And I liked the feeling of the waves kind of creating that interesting triangle peeking into the foreground. So we have the vibrant greens on the top of the hill, but then we also have some beautiful blues in the water and in the sky. And the sun is also creating some nice strong shadows that we can play with, some good contrast of the land versus the water. So here's my plein air setup. I have my solvent, my brushes, paints, some rags for cleaning off my brushes, and then my palette with some colors and the panel I'll be painting on. I'm painting on a 5x7 panel here, which is one of my go-to sizes for plein air. Usually when I'm out painting like this, I have anywhere from like 30 minutes to 2 hours maybe to get a lot of the right colors and shapes down. So I usually try to keep my panels pretty small. And I'm just focusing on overall shapes that I'm seeing and creating like a sense of the kind of freshness that I feel being outside painting directly from life. So to start, and as I start most of my paintings, I just sketch out some of the major light and shadow shapes with some light brown. And then I quickly go into filling those shadow shapes with this nice, deep, almost like purpley black color. I want to have this feeling of really stark contrast of the hill against the ocean. I also start to fill in some of the other colors, so the green of the grass and then a nice beigey, sometimes purpley gray color for the sand. And then I bring in the color of the water. And as I'm working on this, the light is changing a lot. The shadows get a lot smaller, but I'm trying to stick to the shadows that I initially saw. And so it does require a little bit of inventing and kind of sticking to my initial plan, even as the light changes. But thankfully, as the light is shifting, a lot of the colors remain the same. So I find if I can get those original shadows in, then usually I can fill in the colors later and I have a bit more time for those. Once I've kind of blocked in all the colors with my brush, then I take the palette knife to kind of create some different textures, change some of the edges. In some cases, I soften the edges with the palette knife and blur them. In other cases, I'll put a big chunk of paint on my palette knife, like for these highlights, and I add in a nice sharp highlight there. And I feel like using these different materials helps give the painting it gives it some like more visual interest. So I kind of go back and forth. I use the brush for a little bit, and then I use the palette knife, and then I use the brush again to soften some of the sharp edges of the palette knife, just to kind of create a variety of marks. As you can see, I'm keeping to my overall colors and shapes that I initially blocked in, but still trying to create, I guess I'm creating most of the visual interest by changing up the edges in the painting. With this painting, it was a little windy and some sand blew onto the painting, which made the palette knife kind of behave a little bit differently than it usually would. And at first I was a little frustrated, but then I actually sort of liked the roughness that it lent the canvas. I think it has kind of a cool effect. So I go in and I'm kind of going back and forth with these edges with the palette knife, kind of smudging some things and bringing some sharper elements in. And then I get my brush and I soften a lot of the palette knife sections, or just bring a little bit more softness, bring some of those brush marks back in so that I have a variety of mark making on the canvas. And I add a few more highlights to get that glinting on the water and the brightness in the sky. And once I've added these finishing touches, then I'm pretty much done with the painting. So here's the final outcome. I really like the way the rough textures are working on this painting. I think it captures kind of the cold, rugged Northern California beach feel, and also just really enjoying those spring greens. Here you can get a closer look at the painting and see how the palette knife and the brush combine to create this really interesting surface texture on the painting. So yeah, here's the final painting. I hope you liked this video and liked seeing a bit of my plein air painting process. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. And if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, I hope you can get out and do some plein air painting this spring. As always, I want to give a big shout out to my supporters on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for supporting my work. If you like my art, if you like my videos, and you want to help me make more, check out my Patreon at the link. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.